Hi there, it's Jonathan Purps, founder and CEO of ScaleUp Growth Partners. Welcome again to our stories of scaling up, where I chat with owners, managing directors, founders, and business leaders of scaling companies. It centers around their entrepreneurial journey so far and their aspirations for their companies. And today I'm talking to Zara Lord, who's CEO and founder of uPaged. And I'm really excited about this because Zara and I was due to have this call about 2 weeks ago. My son was sick and I couldn't do it. And in the meantime, Zara's, I'm looking down, has been announced as a finalist in the Australian Women's Small Business Championship Awards for 2022. So I'm so pleased that we actually delayed it, and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. It's a pleasure to be here. So thank you for having me.
I'm really looking forward to the conversation. So listen, why don't we just start? What is uPaged and where did it come from? How long have you been doing it and what are you all about?
Yeah, sure. So uPaged is a two-sided marketplace, or we also call it a workforce ecosystem, specialized in healthcare. So it connects healthcare practitioners to work opportunities. Now, that's a really broad way of saying that, for example, we connect a registered nurse to a shift in a hospital or an aged care facility. It might also be a term contract or a permanent role, or it will also extend to do education opportunities, networking, resumes, all the things that healthcare workforce need and want at any stage of their career. I've been doing this for about 5 years now, would you believe? I'm still a nurse and I still do the odd shift and don't want to lose my nursing skills. My background's in ICU nursing. So I worked as an intensive care nurse for about 6 or 7 years. Didn't move away from nursing because I don't love it. I really, really loved my job in ICU. But I found that I got to be a year 8 registered nurse. And from there, you kind of plateaued. The next option to move up is into management, where you're doing rosters or managing people or education. And one of the things that had drawn me to working as an ICU nurse was your impact and the way you could have an impact on someone's experience of their stay in intensive care, which can often be some of the worst days of their life. And I've always felt it a real privilege to be able to provide support to someone in that moment where you can make that a slightly less traumatic experience for them. But I think I was drawn across to the technology to the technology world because of the scalability of your impact. You can create something and an infinite number of people can benefit from it at any one time. And the reason why workforce was because healthcare professionals can't be replaced by robots, and we are the single most important part of the healthcare industry, I believe. And I saw a big challenge with on-demand healthcare practitioners and the way they were placed in shifts really anonymously and for really high fees, where sort of the nurse, the hospital and the patients were all kind of losing out in this very transactional arrangement to make sure that the hospital was staffed for shifts. So it's probably a long-winded version of what we do and why we do it, but I hope that answers all your questions. I don't know if I've missed something in there.
It does, but if I can just sort of chuck an extra bit in there, about your experience. And I'm going to tell a bit of a shocking story, if you don't mind. My 84-year-old father-in-law. This is a lesson for all men. Okay, my 84-year-old father-in-law stupidly about 3 months ago, a bit more than that, climbed a ladder in a garden bed to pick crappy lemons off the next door neighbour's lemon tree. And
let me guess, he's over 55?
He's 84.
Yes, statistically the age is 55, shouldn't be on a ladder anymore.
Correct. Anyway, top it over. It turns out men are top heavy and landed on his head. Our experience with the practitioners was extraordinary. He was intubated and put into a induced coma in the driveway and then airlifted to Liverpool Hospital and spent about 2 weeks in ICU. And the experience that I get the point you're making about the experience he had. The experience that my wife and the family had at the hands of the nurses in ICU was extraordinary, extraordinarily positive. But, it depended on the shift, which is the point you're making, which was really interesting. So we've been through he's now in long-term care, it's brought on dementia and all sorts of things. So my lessons are, yes, I get about the practitioner, but all men get off ladders. Who not how?
Yes. Yeah, over the age of 55, men should not be on ladders, and under the age of 25, boys should not be allowed behind the wheel of a car. Statistically, those are the two things that if you talk to an intensivist, an intensive care consultant, they will say statistically those things should not happen in our society.
But I think the key point, apart from that lesson, I'm sorry to interrupt, I think
not at all.
That relationship at a time of deep stress for both the person and the patient and family makes a huge difference having the right person.
Absolutely. And I was always really proud of my ability as a nurse. I worked in ICU for long enough that I believe I was fairly confident in doing it. But when you're short-staffed, you can't physically give patients the care that they need. And it's a really demoralizing way to practice. And we don't do nursing for the money, let's be honest. It's a good career, but it's not, we generally do it because you're proud of your standard of care. And when you can't give that standard of care, it makes you start to unpack your whole career. And it's not a nice way to deliver care when every patient you turn to, you walk into the room of, is criticizing you for not doing something sooner. And fair enough. It's, healthcare can't wait. It's got to happen in a timely manner.
So tell me, let's get back to, sorry, I've read this off. How do you describe your core customer, your best customer?
So our customers, so remember we're a two-sided marketplace. Our users are the talent, and they're the ones we nurture and we want to care about. But our customer is healthcare organizations, and that's hospitals, aged care facilities, both public and private. They might be larger organizations that provide healthcare services, some telehealth providers that need nurses, but basically anyone who books healthcare professionals. Okay.
And when you talk about the talent, let's, because we're going to have all sorts of people listening to this, what specialities, talent do you talk to?
Yeah, so we started off in nursing because that's the area closest to my heart, but we've now redone our data structures so that we can profile any healthcare profession. The hardest customer for us to acquire, the hardest side of the marketplace for us to source is the healthcare organizations. They're notoriously slow to change because the healthcare system is so complicated. So once we've got the healthcare customers on, it makes sense then. And we get this all the time from our customers when we're saying, yes, we can get you nurses. And they're saying, can you also get us physios? Have you got doctors on your platform? So for us to diversify across all of the other professions in healthcare is a really sensible transition for us. But we started with nurses. We are moving into source doctors, physios, allied health, sterilization specialists. There's any healthcare workforce. But certainly what we have been doing is the nurses so far.
Okay. I was interested to see the other day, a post you put up was your healthcare professionals, which hospitals actually like to work in. It was a very interesting list. It's a lot about, I suppose, the administrators there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have some hospitals that, they're just such a delightful place to work that the nurses just pick up every shift available to go back there. And it's really nice to see hospitals start to really see these on-demand nurses as a part of their workforce. Traditionally, agency or on-demand nurses have been seen as like a necessary evil when they're really short-staffed that they fall back on. But uPaged exists to kind of turn the tables on that. And we don't propose to own the talent the way recruitment agencies will do, in the sense that there's big buyout fees if they want to transition someone across to permanent. So it means that because the nurses can take a casual shift, a term contract, or even transition across to permanent with any of our roles, it means that the hospitals are really receiving our nurses like they might be their next permanent hire. And when you're walking into a hospital that you've never been in before, and you're in an unfamiliar setting and you don't know any of the nurses, to know that they're going to support you back and make sure that you have a positive experience at their hospital is completely game-changing. And I can talk about that from my own experience, that it was only ever, I did on-demand agency work through my whole career to top up my income. And it was only ever once that I got met with, "You're Zara, you must be the agency nurse. Thank you so much for coming." Every other time it was we have an agency nurse, and you get met with an eye roll or assume that you know nothing. And I know why those relationships exist, but I just thought it was a missed opportunity, or there was an opportunity to do it better.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. One of the things I coach is how do you make it easy for your customers to do business with you, staff to do business with you, and your suppliers to do business with you. And it's extraordinary how, when you focus on, which is what seems what you've done, when you focus on that, and how everything else follows. You know, it's an interesting thing. Phyllis, you would have been affected particularly harshly by the pandemic, I would have thought. What actions have you taken, did you take during the pandemic that it will remain in your business?
Oh, I think there's the remote work was a big part of it. We were in the office 5 days a week before that. And now we are firmly fixed on 2 days a week in the office, and we work remotely very well. We were already using Slack before the pandemic, and this might seem a little, I'm not sure if this is on the scale of what you were wanting out of this question, but one thing we do is we have a Slack channel that has a permanent video link. And we call it meeting room. And so we've got, at any point, you can step into the meeting room and you don't need to like invite someone to a video conference or anything. There's just a link there ready to go. So it is almost like opening the door to a meeting room. You just say, I'll meet you there and jump in this video call. So I've always found that one a really fun little hack that we never had beforehand.
So I'm going to love it.
Yeah.
So I'm writing that down. I haven't heard about it. That'd be fabulous for my team. My team too.
Yeah. We just have a Slack channel, it's meeting room, and a link in there, a static link in the Slack channel. And you just go meet you in #meeting room and you click across and jump on in. We'll probably get to a point soon where we need several meeting rooms because you'll often go there and there's already people in it.
That's great.
And we do that. Yeah. So, and that's helpful. A lot of we pivoted a lot through COVID. So when right at the start of COVID, hospitals went really quiet in the sense that they had to stop all theatres and reduce admissions through ED. So they actually didn't have the workforce needs. Especially, it was only really a couple of the major hospitals that got built up with COVID patients. So we didn't have a whole lot of requests from hospitals in the first year of COVID. And so we were really lucky to have some fantastic contracts with really large insurance companies to support them with telehealth nurses and lots of COVID-related roles. So some of those are still ongoing now, which is great. But it's just been a couple of years of pivoting and sort of seizing different opportunities so that we could keep nurses engaged in work when like vast numbers of casual work nurses were being let go of.
Right. So, Joy, what does the future look like now, and what do you see as your main challenges going forward?
Yeah. The future for us is really tackling connecting healthcare professionals to any opportunity. It's going beyond the contingent work, but how do we develop new talent pipelines and develop the capability of the talent we have? So folding in things like education marketplace, allowing them to set career goals, build a resume, make compliance storage easier, and onboarding. You think that nurses were on a couple $100,000 salaries when you see the amount of compliance that we're required to conform with to remain current as a healthcare practitioner. So if we can make that easier for them to store it, and we can reduce recruitment cycles down from 3.5 months for a hospital to recruit a nurse when they usually get 2 to 4 weeks notice when one resigns. We've got nurses onboarding in as little as 24 hours. So, and then onboarded with the hospital in as little as 15 minutes. So if we can make the mobility of workforce a lot more seamless, affordable, and transparent, then I think we've got a really big future ahead of us. But there's a lot of work involved in pulling off every part of our ecosystem.
And technology.
And technology, yes. Yeah. A lot of technology required.
Yeah. So, you've really been a business owner for the last 5 years, 3 years full time. What do you reckon has been your biggest learning?
I've had so much support along the way, but I think the biggest feedback I get is they were like, is sort of how I learned my business acumen. And I'd say that's from the support network around me. So I don't think my big thing is I don't know everything, and I don't purport to know anything, but there are so many experts around me. So then my job is sort of like the puppeteer, pulling all the strings together and making sure I'm getting the best advice or getting second opinions or networking. But people have been incredibly generous, and I don't think I've had anyone sort of roll their eyes to me and say, yeah, good luck to you, run a startup. People have been like, great, how can I help? And have really provided they see you making an effort and doing the work, and you're not just chancing it. if they can see that you're putting in the effort and doing the things required to get to the next stage, people are so supportive and have been incredibly helpful along the way, very generous. So I think my big thing has been you don't have to be an expert at everything, provided you've got the right people around you. And then the major bit of advice I've had along the way is know your why, really understand why you're doing this, because when it gets tough, and it will, it's your why that keeps you going. And that's, for me, been pretty fundamental to my journey.
Have you discovered Simon Sinek?
Yes. Yeah. Follow him on Instagram. He's fantastic.
Simon Sinek, for listeners, wrote a book on Know Your Why and essentially your purpose. So, for instance, my purpose is grow remarkable leaders and companies. And hence, this podcast is actually about spreading the net of Grow Remarkable far wider by speaking to successful business leaders. Just for anybody listening, Simon Sinek, he has a TEDx talk, 20 minutes. It is one of the most watched TEDx talks ever on the 3 circles of Know Your Why. So if you haven't seen it, go and have a look. You mentioned you've been supported. So where are you finding all of these mentor support, etc.?
A whole series of different networks. I've probably done 5 accelerator programs over the years. While I think you learn a bit in those accelerator programs, at the end of the day, you're the only one that's going to know how to run your business. And so all of these sort of templates for how to run your business, while it's good and can be applied to your business, you've just got to get in and do the things to get to the next stage. But out of those accelerators, the network of people that you meet has been phenomenal. Some of our investors, we did a seed round last year and got the most beautifully suited suite of investors that complement our journey in every which way. I couldn't have listed, if I'd fabricated a list of the type of skills I wanted to bring into our cap table, I couldn't have painted it better myself. They're just unreal. And I think just 5 years doing something. The startup community in Sydney is really small but very supportive. It's quite big actually, but everyone, there's only a couple of degrees of separation and there's lots of support out there. So I'd say it's a whole range. I couldn't put my finger on one particular channel of where I found that support, but I think then my job is to work out where I get the best support from, because it can be also a very noisy industry and lots of faff, and you have to work out how to cut it to get straight to the best support needed. Yeah,
that's some great advice in there. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, right.
So tell me, when you think about the word successful, who pops to mind and why?
I have a friend of mine that right at the start allowed me to work out of his office space, and they had 30 employees at the time. I think their company's now valued at over $100 million, and they're talking about a much bigger. They're really shooting for the stars globally and what they're doing, and he has been. His journey, I hope he writes a book one day, because it's anytime I thought I was having a tough time, he has had every challenge possible. And he comes into work every day with a smile on his face, and he loves his team and he's so proud of what they're doing. But he's an incredibly strong mentor he's been incredibly pivotal to my journey. His name's Matty and he's from a company called Grow Inc. And their startup journey has been phenomenal to watch and observe over the years. But he is a really phenomenal leader and a real inspiration to me in the way that he's navigated all of the curveballs of running a very large startup, and they've done extremely well. So he's very, very successful in my eyes.
Make sure you get him to watch this.
I will.
You will appreciate it, I guarantee you. So are you a reader? Any blogs, books, leadership biographies you could recommend?
Yeah, I'm not a massive reader, to be honest. I do read, and I'm reading a book at the moment called "Will It Make the Boat Go Faster," which I'm loving. It's about their English, the British first date. Love that. It's very factual and condensed and analysed, which is super cool.
Let's just nail down into that book for those who've never heard of it. So when the British rowing or bicycle cycling?
Rowing
was doing really badly a decade or two ago, the coach essentially put a mantra in place, as I understand it, which was, will it make the boat go faster? If the answer is yes, if the answer is no, we're going to chuck it out. So it's all about focusing on absolute laser focus on what you're looking to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. And I haven't got to the end of the book, but I presume they won gold. But they I was pretty sure that was how it happened. But they were actually normally they would go and put their best 8 rowers in the 8, and then the single and the double would be made up of people lower. Whereas in this instance, they had the worser of the lesser of their rowers, their national rowers, in the 8. And they implemented this strategy of will it make the boat go faster, and they ended up winning gold. So it's a pretty incredible feat of mindset and just incremental changes. It's pretty cool.
And that's the sort of plaque you want to put on the desk of every one of your managers.
Yeah.
One of my clients has done a similar but a little bit different. Will this make it easier for the team for the company to do business? Will it make our customers happy? We do quarterly OKRs, and the question we ask is, what is going to bring our customers and users the most value in the next quarter? So then we have all these initiatives that we democratize amongst the team, so that as well as our regular duties, we're all working on this bigger picture initiatives to achieve our goals of bringing our customers more value in the next quarter. Fabulous.
Difficult.
Last question. Any last piece of advice or parting words for CEOs or aspiring CEOs?
I probably have a bit of imposter syndrome here, because I feel like I'm too new to the CEO world to offer much advice to other people. But for me, the biggest thing has been the people around me, and just building that support network. Because I think that you don't need to be an expert at everything, and I think the best CEOs aren't the expert at everything, but you're really good at bringing the people together to achieve that vision, and just making sure that the vision is firmly set and communicated, so that those people can excel. But probably the one bit of advice that I really love is that the sooner you realize that you work for your employees, the better boss you'll be. And it was, I firmly held on to that right the way along, because as much as, yes, we're all trying to achieve these goals for uPaged is also the moat to help all of your employees achieve their personal and professional goals as well. And we fold that into our every week, where we have personal and professional goals that we all set on a weekly basis and reflect on. So it's and how do we help them achieve their career goals through this platform of uPaged?
Fabulous. I've loved talking to you, because you've given me so many things I want to talk to people about, like imposter syndrome. Go and find Mike Cannon-Brooks's TEDx talk on imposter syndrome. So Mike Cannon-Brooks is co-founder of Atlassian, $19 billion man. There's so much in that imposter syndrome in that TEDx talk that is you will just relate to it totally. And because most CEOs and founders suffer from imposter syndrome. And then the second piece was, I call it your unique ability. Focus on your unique ability. My unique ability is talking to CEOs, coaching them to grow and scale their business, developing content to help them do that. That's my unique ability. My unique ability is not being an accountant or bookkeeper, is not being a lawyer, even though I have a law degree, is not being the process around this podcast we're doing. I do one bit and one bit only, which is what I'm doing now. My unique ability is not go to everything else. So surround yourself with people with unique abilities to complement yours. So I want to talk to you. That's a really good point, because especially when you're a very, very early stage startup where you don't have a team, you need to be the jack of all trades, and you need to figure out how to do a financial model and how to sell in customers and get some validation before you can justify raising capital or building a product. And so you kind of start off on the journey trying to be the jack of all trades, and then you get to a point where you have to be very decisive on where's best to spend your time and what you should be passing on to an actual expert to do that. And this concept of who, not how. Starting with the who before you even work out the how or the what is critical to success. And the who's don't have to be full-time staff. They can be people you bring in for little projects, like Vitaly, who edits these videos. Vitaly, I'm doing my bit for the Ukraine. He's based in Ukraine, and we are regularly having outs because the Russians have bombed a power station or an air raid have gone off. But he does, regardless, does just fabulous work. So who, not how.
Yeah, brilliant.
So you've given me so much. We could go for hours, but I promise you a short this period. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. It's been wonderful.